Shalom. Good evening. It's 10 o'clock here in Israel, and my name is Dr. Tova Goldfein. This is TMS RoundTable Global. We're so excited to be going live every Monday, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my co-host and good friend and colleague, Rose. Good morning, Boker Tov.
Good morning from Australia. This morning, we have Rikke joining us. She's got an amazing story to tell us. Before we talk about chronic pain and the defenses we use, we would love to hear Rikke's first-hand story about
Denmark.
how she came to be a therapist.
Yes.
Thanks, Rikke, and thank you for coming on.
Well, it's my pleasure. I have been excited all day. And actually, I've been dress rehearsing this conversation for like about 50 times.
In the mirror? In the mirror?
No, but in my head, I've been talking to you all day. So my name is Rikke. I'm from Denmark, and I'm a psychotherapist here, ISDTP. And I'm 50 years old, but when I was back 19 years old after high school, I went straight to Durango, Colorado to get my private pilot license to become a pilot. And I had some exciting times and exciting years building up experience so that I could, get into the bigger companies here in Denmark. And so I've been flying up until 2008 for like 17 years and Boeing 737. And at that time, my company went bankruptcy, and I sort of transitioned into full-time therapy because at that time I was educated psychotherapist. But I think what you're getting at is at the beginning when I became a pilot, I did it for so many reasons that did not have to do anything with the aircraft. I had seen Top Gun with Tom Cruise and all the co-stars in that movie. And at 19 years old, I was kind of a bit insecure. I was kind of struggling a little bit with finding the meaning of life. And I couldn't really have a sense of a coherent me. I couldn't really. And I was struggling a little bit with what you might call social anxiety. And I figured that if these people who look so good on the screen, if I could become one of them, maybe I could internalize that kind of, safety, and they look good. And even when they feel miserable, they look good when they feel miserable and they get over it. And so I went and I flew and I became a pilot. And what I just came to realize that even though being a pilot was wonderful in many aspects, that thing never happened. I did not integrate myself. I did not become less anxious. I did not. It just didn't happen. It didn't work. So I remember that, when I was flying the aircraft, it was like you just sort of buckle up. You sort of tie this 165,000 kilos of aircraft around your thighs, and you just fly the thing. And it's not a relational context in any way. So my anxiety would be really low and I would be functioning really well in the aircraft. But then afterwards, if I walked into a room with like family or like 3 friends, I would be going, ugh. My anxiety would just shoot off the roof. And I was wondering, okay, so I've tried about everything. What's to do next? And I just dove into psychotherapy and found out that the way to integrate myself, all the fragmented pieces, were a very different journey than the one I had spent the first 17 years doing.
Yeah. Well, that's the journey, isn't it, that our audience is taking as well now. When they recognize that that it's their feelings that they've shut down and chronic pain has resulted, they've then got to take this journey, don't they? Yeah. Right into looking into themselves and they're hiding from, what they're trying to run away from and hide from. But I loved it when you said about being getting on that aeroplane and buckling up. And how many tons do you pull off the runway? And there's no anxiety, none whatsoever.
No anxiety. It's very straightforward, you say, and the only other relation in the cockpit is the guy I'm flying with, and then you have the beautiful cabin in the back, and so that was working really well. And then once again on the ground, I was sort of transformed into just being me with all the stuff inside. It didn't vaporize into I kept showing up as good old me.
That's right. Yeah, and the confidence doesn't get, well, I suppose the confidence on the plane means that you know that you're confident, don't you think?
Yeah.
You knew you had the capacity to be confident.
Yeah.
But you didn't have the wherewithal to actually create it in your private life in a way, you're saying, aren't you?
True. That's true. The guy that I used to listen in on a couple of years ago, many years ago, Christian Pankhurst, and he usually had this picture where he says it's like there are two axes that you operate on. One is sort of you being in you, and like with an aircraft, a machine, you can have, be very adaptive, have lots of skills, and you do well. And that's sort of the vertical axis. But then there's the horizontal one that connects me to you, Rose, and to you, Tova. And with you being here, the three of us and the listeners, I mean, my entire attachment history is getting stirred up with you and with other people. And of course, when I got off the aircraft, attachment history sort of just re-entered the room.
Yeah.
And then I was in a mess.
Yeah, and it comes without even bidding, doesn't it? Like you don't even know it's happening. And that's one of the things that I'm sort of really interested in talking about in a way, is the whole idea that we haven't got a clue that it's our attachment history that's being created in our relationships. And then we turn to our defenses. Yeah. Our anxiety comes up, so we have to find a way to stay away from our anxiety, and we go to something else. The other thing that I wondered about was, when we talk about this, we have these patterns that we set up talking about that. And the one that came to me quite quickly was, as a kid, one member of the family could be defiant and stand up to the parents and say, well, I'm not eating Brussels sprouts. And the other child could say, or not say anything, and become shut down and eat the Brussels sprouts, although they wanted to be sick.
Yeah.
So those interactional patterns are what you're talking about now when you got off the plane and had to deal with all the people that you're dealing with. Do you want to sort of talk about that a little bit, how you sort of see that?
Yeah, I'd love to. And we can sort of pivot in and out, because what you're bringing up has so many ways of, putting our perspectives around what you just said. So if when we meet people in the clinic, many of them are not, like you say, they're not able to really point out what the internal emotional problem is. They don't have words for it. Nobody has talked to them before about it. Like with me, when I was younger, if you asked me, Rikke, do you feel pain in your life? I'd have said no. And if you if you had asked me, do you have problems with emotional closeness? I said no. Because I wouldn't know what you were talking about. All I knew was the anxiety, right?
Yes. So and running away from the anxiety.
Yeah, the only thing we know is what's showing up in the body, for instance, right? So if you had asked me what's going on inside you, I could say, well, right now I have a light stutter, I have dry mouth, my mind is, conking out, and my right ear is ringing. And then we would begin talking about what's actually happening like on an experiential level, right? Because we could talk about what's happening inside me.
Yeah.
But if you had asked me, so Rikke, are you also defiant, or are you kind of the people-pleasing type? I would say, I don't know. I think I'm just nice.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Until I tell you to sort of, go away or get defiant. But these are things that are so difficult to, see for ourselves, because we only know how we are, and we think that's how life is.
That's right, and that's why that whole transference or interactional patterns, and they're set up from the day we're born, or even in utero, they're set up,
Yeah.
and we don't even have a clue that they're actually happening.
No.
And often we think it's the other people that are the problem.
Oh yeah, and I'm the best externalizer that you can ever get in there. I mean, I'm chief. But that's true, and I think that is, when we ask people like you just did, Rose, you say, so how can we help people to see these patterns that they have, and how can we help them change and make these journeys where they sort of stop running from themselves and get clear about that there's something we need to get rid of. No one is going to want to take that journey unless they can find a real good reason why.
True. A very compelling reason as well. Yeah.
And the reason is oftentimes like, so what do you think, what are you struggling with? Well, I don't know. I just feel totally shitty and my life is a mess. But so what's going on in your life? And if people tell you, you can begin to ask them, so how is that a problem for you? What price are you paying for that and all that? And when people begin to see how they are, they put words on, so I feel lonely, and my husband just left me, and my kids don't want to talk to me. I'm having pain in my body, and I don't know where it's coming from. Then the reasons to make transforming journeys begin to emerge, don't they?
Yes. Yeah. Strongly. Yeah.
Strongly, because we have to sort of, what's going on inside me, and how can I understand that, and is there any hope for any change, and why should there be? I've been like this forever.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the other impediment, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the other thing. But this is how I am.
Yeah.
I'm always a people pleaser, but it's served me well because, I'm popular.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, you're not popular inside because the suffering continues on because you're holding back your own needs, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
Because when you're a people pleaser, for example, or compliant person in more technical terms, well, your needs aren't ever going to be addressed because that externalization continues to happen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then nobody notices you.
Nobody notices me, and what you don't realize is that you're the first one yourself to throw yourself under the bus. And when you sell out by putting my will in your pocket, or by pleasing who I think you want me to be, I'm actually inviting you into a relationship where the two of us both can, dismiss me or disregard me, or,
Yeah.
But I can hear that. No, come on, Tova.
No, go ahead. Your turn.
No, I want to hear you.
Oh no, you do it. No.
That's right.
But I could hear that what you were aiming at, Rose, is that, underneath everything, all the, whatever, if we call them, I'm going to look what I wrote, transactional patterns, or the transference pattern, or if we call it the attachment history showing up, or the defenses we use, whatever term we use for it. What we're talking about is how we hide our authentic self with emotions and feelings and desires and motivations, how we hide them with other people, right? So we hide ourselves behind facades or ways of being or ways of behavior that we have internalized.
Or as we
like,
say, a wall.
yeah, we set up a wall so that you, Rose, and you, Tova, you don't get to meet me, because all you could see right now is sort of the pleasing side of me, if I was. But to sort of to begin to work with that, it's always one of the whys we want to understand is, how has this come about? Because none of us wake up in the morning telling ourselves, let me fuck up my day, and let me deflect any love that comes my way, and let me put up a wall with Rose and Tova. We don't do that. So
No.
why is this even happening? And that's why we want to want to know a little bit about attachment and how what kids do when they are with adults, and how they mature their nervous system and emotional circuits, and what's happening even from utero, you say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and if you think about it, sorry, Tova, what was that?
No, you go. You talk.
No, I was just thinking that, like that whole idea of being on alert.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, if the parents are having an argument and you're in utero, the mother's vasovagal system is activated, so the child actually becomes sort of addicted to it, don't they? So then they grow up, or as they grow, that vasovagal response has to keep happening to make them feel secure.
Yeah, and actually, I haven't read so much about the kid inside the utero. I only know so much about attachment when they come out.
It's the same. It's the same story.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, but it makes a lot of sense.
No, we keep repeating our lives over and over again. It's the same dance, what goes around comes around. What goes around comes around.
Sure.
But with you ladies talking, what's fascinating to me is, all right, well, how do I get better? How do I get out of pain? How do I get out of anxiety? And what occurred to me was the paradox, which is so clear in life. If we are able to look at ourselves, which is awareness, which is mindfulness, which is probably a little easier thing than to feel my feelings. So first I have to be aware of myself, and then we're, to be a little bit mindful, which is not as hard, because I have to be mindful. I have to observe or watch. And what I observed there was, when somebody is constantly saying, yes, I'm a people pleaser, it's like, I want attention by taking care of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, I really don't want the attention on me, but I'll take care of you because that's how bad I want the attention.
Yeah.
So what's fascinating is the ego. And Rose will talk about the punitive ego. And for a while, I didn't know what the word punitive meant. So I looked it up on Google. And
it means, yeah.
The ego is the ego. And this is where the pilot comes in. So I'm weaving together the first 15 minutes of the show. The pilot, you were so confident and so sure. And a lot of our patients and clients, they are amazingly brilliant people, talented and brilliant, and have come so far in life. But the paradox is that they don't even know who they are.
True.
And it freaks them out that they can't get out of anxiety or can't get out of pain. And I'm like, no, it's a good thing. You're close to the door. Don't beat yourself up. So it's almost like, how do we utilize who we are? Like, you woke up one day after being a pilot for 17 years and you said, okay, now what do I do with my life? I don't know myself. And someone else would get really depressed, but you were like, I'm just going to keep going forward. So you were resilient in your growth, even though it looked scary for a while. And maybe it was like, what do I do now?
I think I have every day, actually, many scary moments. But now I don't like moving faster than the speed of a giraffe. So I take my time. Everything is like slow motion.
That's being mindful, Rikke. That's being
it
mindful.
It is. So I think what you say is so true, because after we find out why we at all want to look at who we really are underneath all the facades and underneath the pain and the anxiety, when we have sort of figured out why we want to do it, because we need a why, because we know it's going to hurt, right? It's not going to be pleasant.
Yeah,
it's not a pleasant ride.
It is.
It really is.
Actually, that, Rikke, is an area we haven't actually explored, have we? The unpleasantness of turning around and facing ourselves. That's so important, because it's the put off, isn't it?
It's a paradox. The frightening is freedom. Underneath the fear
but it's not really.
No.
I mean, you know, like when you look back.
If you had a hand on the stove, you know it's going to hurt, and you don't want to put the hand on the stove again, because you know it's going to So sometimes you need another person. But I think what you're saying is true, because what you call mindfulness and attentiveness, or you said awareness, is actually the attention that we begin to have with ourselves. But it's not just any attention that we give ourselves, because I could be attentive to myself, but I could be doing it like, I don't like what I see, and I'm going to dismiss whatever's coming up, and I'm just going to have a little peek, and then I'm going to
shut it down.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So the attentiveness that we want to sort of induce with each other and with the clients is, can we have a friendly and curious and just you know, all accepting approach to what's going on inside? And like you say, Tove, can we look at the pain and defenses, or whatever we call them? Can we look at them as invitations to find out what is going on below the surface, so we can wisen up and get to feel more of what we are trying not to feel, even though we don't know we're trying not to feel it, but you know, whatever's down there. Right?
And sadly, some of my clients, you know, a gentleman the other night said, I said, are you ready? Are you ready to get into this? And he was like, I have no choice. And I thought, well, maybe that's not the best way to get into it, but it's kind of like, it's not a bad entrance. I'm ready. And other people are like, yeah, I'm ready. And then next day they're out the door. So what is scary? What is scary about unfolding to being naked emotionally? What is scary about unpeeling the onion, as Rose says? What is scary about feeling our feelings? Why is it scary?
Well, I'm going to answer the best I can, right? And probably 1,000 more ways to answer.
That's right.
But if we just picture ourselves as kids, our parents and the people who took care of us, they have taught us all about love and pain the best they could, right? So we're not saying any of this to point fingers or, you know, for instance, I love where I come from. I love my parents. And even if they did their best, I may have had numerous subjective experiences of something that caused trauma inside me. As we best understand it as, you know, the breaking of our attachment. Anything that I would feel would be threatening to my attachment to my mother and my father, for instance. Anything that would threaten the bond would be something that my psyche would begin to handle in various ways, because my job as a kid is to try and secure an insecure attachment. I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep Rose close to me, and you, Tova, if you are mom and dad. And I'm not doing it consciously. This is pre-verbal, pre-everything. I can't even mentalize. It just begins as sort of, it's the way that the nervous system bends to fit in. to keep you loving me. It's the way my emotional circuits mature, or maybe the opposite. They stay dysfunctional somehow. And I'm going to figure out, without even knowing it, how I please you best.
That's right.
So if you, Rose, if you look at me with sort of scary eyes like this every time I express my will, I'm going to make sure that I stick my will in somebody else's pocket and please you, because then I know you will stay with me and you will probably love me a bit more. Right?
Yeah, that's right. The other side of the coin is that sometimes the best way of getting attention is to be difficult as a child, because the parent is distracted. So the more difficult you are and the more defiant you are, the greater the amount of attention, even if it's unhealthy attention. And then, of course, it concertinas right out into adulthood, and we play the same game with our partners and our friends. And
so true.
Yeah, it is. I think there's a truth to saying that any attention is better than being neglected or ignored, because that void is just even more painful than if you were to pick a fight with me. And in some families, picking fights or fighting or being sort of getting at each other's nerves, that is somehow the way people love each other in that family.
Yeah. We'll give each other attention. Yeah.
Yeah, because in some families, loving feelings are the forbidden feelings, right?
Yes.
In some families, you don't touch. In some families, you feel guilt if you have too many happy moments. It's just too scary. And if I start over off by moving in on her and want to be close with you and want to hug you, and if you are scared or if you scold me, I'm gonna, what do they say in neuroscience, that it takes only one fear memory to become permanent. So if you scold me when I want to be affectionate with you, every time my husband comes to be affectionate with me, my nervous system is going to pick up on that, and it's going to go, that's not a good idea.
Yes.
Hide.
Well said.
Get away.
Yeah.
Don't even go there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then then I have to be close to him in so many other ways. And maybe that's by picking a fight or nagging at him or telling him to vacuum 3 times in the bathroom. I don't know.
It's a loving experience, is it?
That's what they call true love.
I just think it's fascinating that you went to fly a plane to deal with a certain kind of, I find it fascinating. I mean, I've never met a pilot. You happen to be a woman, you went all the way to Colorado from Denmark I just find it a fascinating thing, the things that we do. I mean, it's really, I'm so happy you're sharing this, because it's showing our listeners the paradox, again, the cycle, again, the way that we play out our attachment. Just fascinating.
In a sense, you could say that the aeroplane was sort of my restricted relational environment, and I was able to cope really well in there. And then I got out of this protected area, and it was like, oh, the world is back.
Oh my God. Wow. And
Rose,
that is, you became a nurse. You became a nurse. I mean, really, that's also a choice that you made growing up. And
like doing the right thing and blah blah blah. Save the world. And then a midwife. I mean, that was the ultimate, though, being a midwife.
Oh, that's a fascinating job too.
Although actually being a midwife of the soul, or whatever you'd like to call it, with ISDTP, I think it's the most beautiful thing to reach in and take that person out into their adulthood. It's just such a beautiful experience to do that with people.
It is.
And
Like,
Yeah. Delivery.
Yeah.
If you think about it, isn't easy.
It is.
And then, as adults with ISTTP, we have another delivery,
That's true.
and we deliver in the adult relationship. And it's so beautiful when someone sends you an email or a text, 5 years later, and says, it's the gift that's kept on giving.
Yeah.
It's just a lovely experience to have.
Yeah.
As a provider.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And I guess that I've written down notes. You can't see it, but every time you say so much clever, so I'm so busy writing down.
Oh, I've got news for you.
No.
Here's a message from Cassie. I think she's sharing, but can you read it, Rose?
In my youth, back in the 70s in the States, it was common for nurses in the hospital to bring and then take babies away from the mother to stay in the nursery, especially if the mother had any surgeries. That might create the beginning of an attachment struggle. Absolutely right, Cassie. Absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it raises anxiety in the mother because the mother can't see the child and the child can't see the mother.
No.
And then it's a stranger's face that picks them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
it's a stranger's
was
face.
it Cassie who said that?
Cassie, yeah.
Cassie, yeah.
I think she's right in the sense that there are so many attachment traumas that can be induced or created in so many different ways. This one was a very serious way, but other traumas, small traumas, daily traumas can be just as devastating. And even with mothers and fathers who are not being neglected on purpose. So like a mother who has to tend to twins, for instance, and she has to breastfeed one and put the other one away. For that other one who was put away, the way that child is perceiving what's happening can be just as
it's devastating.
devastating. Yeah. And then the thing about the traumas, it's not so much obviously with the little baby being taken away from the mother at hospital. I mean, that's a trauma, right? But many other traumas, it's not so much the nature of the trauma that is damaging to us. It's more like for little kids, we have to, every time we have had a little disruption in the bond or the connection, if the parents are lucky enough to be able to reestablish and, get back at us and resonate again, then we learn that, traumas are to be overcome and we can mature with that level of frustration because, we found the balance again. Mom is back, daddy is back. But the strain is really when,
it's not repaired.
When it's not repaired. And then the psyche really has to figure out how to deal with this, right?
Yeah. Well, the other thing is about trauma and about that a bond being damaged. We need that pressure to grow into maturity. Mm-hmm. So we need to be restrained or corrected or whatever. But we need that correction then to be. I just thought of smothered with love afterwards. It's just a word that came to me. Yeah. Because the bond needs to be repaired, and the thing is, as a midwife, and that I learned about telling parents to remind their child that they're lovable at the end of the day, that you are lovable.
Yeah.
Because they've done stuff that isn't lovable, and they know it.
Yeah.
So the psyche says, I'm not lovable. And then they come as patients and they have chronic pain.
Yeah.
But they are lovable, but nobody reminded them in those early years that you could be naughty. You could be a naughty girl or a naughty boy, but you're still lovable. It's so simple. It's just mind-blowing. The simplicity of it, and the fact that it's not recognized. Yeah.
Yeah, and even at this day and age, we as parents, we often confuse children's behavior with who they are, and it's like we mistake them for their actions, and then this kid grows up into being me, and then I have internalized this very critical sense of, oh, I mean, it's really dangerous if I make a mistake because, you know, the world is going to blow up. So
yeah, well, it does for the child.
Yeah, instead of
true.
Yeah, for the child it's dangerous, but for us as grown-ups, we need to sort of differentiate us from that way of looking at ourselves. And you know, I do 100 failures every day. I mean, I you know, you should know. I mean, just like any other person, we're just normal people.
Well, that's
exactly.
that's the solution. See, I like to get to the solution. First of all, we're not broken. We are not broken. We are not broken. We are not broken. We're having human experiences. I mean, the beauty of what we're all doing here, and the beauty of our you know, our nakedness and our realness as women, as mothers. Rose and I are grandmothers. You will be there soon. Yeah. As you know, as healthcare providers, there's so much solution. There's so much resilience. There's so much hope. You know, I didn't grow up with the biology of hope. There's now a biology of hope. There's a biology of gratitude. It's a biology of, you know, belief. It's so amazing. And that's why I think we're so excited about what we're doing, is that we see people getting better. And you just said it yourself. We make mistakes. We forgive ourselves.
Well, we don't. That's the sad part about it. If we did, it would be wonderful. We wouldn't need therapists. We wouldn't need chiropractors. We wouldn't need doctors.
Right. But the fact is, I think, I believe that we are different. We're a different kind of therapy. We're a different kind of healing. And to use the body and the mind is the most powerful combination. It's the most powerful partnership. And that's what feels so amazing. You know, way beyond my chiropractic, I'm just in awe and in blessed to be doing this kind of work and bringing together the body and the mind, which ISDTP is doing as well. You know,
yeah.
And there's people that really, look, I don't even let people call themselves sick. They're just in transition. I think the words are really important. So mistakes, isn't that, let's call it something else. I'm living life. It's not like I'm making mistakes. What do you want to call it, Rose?
Well, it's not mistakes. What it is it's living life, isn't it? But it's the judgment of others that started off as judgment, and then we internalize that judgment, and what we call a mistake, which is something that you could have done differently, becomes so critical that we're disempowered and we're crippled in pain. And just those metaphors, those words, you know, crippled in pain because we're crippled with guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we make a mistake, it means we're guilty. And then we internalize that guilt, and it sits on top of our anger, our sadness, our grief, our love, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But we
As
could also...
Alan Abbas always says, yeah.
What?
It's the guilt, isn't it? That
yeah, guilt. And it's, I think, one of the things that I'm tempted to, because I have a defiant side. That is, I mean, in a sense, defenses are not the problem, because once in a while we want to be lying a bit, and we want to be faking a bit, and we want to...
Yeah, we need to. Yeah.
And so my defiant side is telling me right now that I would like to just have power over any word. So I don't mind saying that I make mistakes. And actually, if you ask my friends, I have recently said that I have, like last year, my favorite mistakes were this and this and this and this and this and this. And I'm so glad that I made those mistakes, because... And, you know, so in a sense, it's like taking the word back and making it mine. And I decide it's not dangerous to make mistakes. I'm not going to avoid saying that I make mistakes, because I make mistakes every day.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Right. It's
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
My favorite mistakes.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I was thinking of something you said, Tova, because when we started this conversation, you were talking about the patterns that we have with other people, the ways we avoid emotional closeness with other people, not because we want to hurt ourselves, but it's just like the waste product of a very immature way of protecting ourselves, as if we were kids, right? So when we begin working with people who have chronic pain or who are suffering in very many ways, we talk to them, but what I think is important with probably what you do, Tova, and also you, Rose, is that what we bring into play when we talk with people are all the relational qualities that were supposed to have been there when we were kids. We now sort of make a corrective emotional experience with them here and now. We talk about what's going on inside you in a way where we invite it all. So what are you feeling in the body? What feelings do you notice come up there? What does that have to do with anything? You notice you're looking away from me. Now you're becoming a bit defined. What's that about? And we sort of just investigate it all in a very curious way. And And what the clients pick up on is that, in a sense, we love them the best we can. We are just totally accepting, and it's not a problem that they behave the way they behave. In a sense, they're just bringing in their entire attachment history, and they're pointing with the defenses. They're saying, "This is where I'm stuck. I only know how to people please or be defiant. I don't know what's going on with me. Help me." And now I'm doing it with you, for crying out loud. And then, I mean, we're sort of just. We're not having like a cognitive, rational, intellectual conversation about what's going on. We're really just, like Brené Brown says, she says, we put on the galoshes, like up to here, and then we put a lamp in the forehead, and we just dive into the basement. We don't want to live there. We just want to camp for a little while.
That's right.
And then we go around down there and see what's in it. We come up again.
And drain the basement. And drain it.
We're draining it.
Yeah.
And just, that's not so.
So we don't need galoshes anymore.
I don't need galoshes or a nose thing.
Yeah. I want to get your opinion. I think I grew up believing that only certain people were insecure, and they were the ones that were like me. But I believe that we all grow up insecure, and that's not a bad thing. It is what it is. Insecure is
that's
not
right. We
bad.
need that.
Insecure is good. Insecure is called growing up.
Yeah.
But
we need the repair. That's
what do you mean we need the repair?
We need
go ahead.
No, I want to hear you. I'm just
No, I want to know. We grow up insecure because that's life.
Well, the nervous system is doing its job. We are mammals. We have leftovers from the reptiles, right? So inside us, we have these survival circuits, just like we have emotional circuits and hormonal circuits and digestive circuits. So the job for the survival circuits is to pick up any danger that can disrupt the bond that I have to you, Tova, and to you, Rose. And just because that the nervous system is sort of out of tune, or has been scared when I was 5 and has forgotten that now I'm actually 50, I can handle just about anybody. So the nervous system is picking up on what it has been taught to be unsafe, and it is trying to alert us that we need to fix this relationship so that you don't disappear from me, so you don't leave me, so that you. So, but the nervous system is immature at this point when we meet people with chronic pain and sufferings. Maybe if they grew up with parents who had immature emotional circuits, immature nervous systems, they didn't have the best material to resonate with. So that
That's
means
right.
if I grow up with a mom who is depressive and a father who is very impulsive and acting out, that is going to affect the maturity of, who I can become.
Yeah.
And so I walk out into the world with dysfunctional nervous system that is doing what it's supposed to. It's just out of tune. And I'm walking out into the world with a dysfunctional emotional circuit, which is doing what it's supposed to do. And then I meet Tova and I said, Tova, I'm fucked. Help me. And we begin to work. And as we work, because of the relationship we have and the qualities that are sort of inside the way we speak with one another, you help me on the way mature my systems so I can sort of upgrade myself. So I can collect myself, so I can become one person, so I can begin to feel a little bit of my emotions, so I can begin to feel or maybe differentiate. So I thought this was anger. No, this is actually signs of anxiety. So when my ears are ringing and I have temper tantrums, that's not anger, that's anxiety. Oh, but what's triggering it? And then you help me bit by bit, sort of with
moment by moment, really.
Moment by moment.
Would you say the nervous system can learn new pathways, new habits, new patterns? Is that okay? Is that fair to say in this analogy?
What do you call it in the cognitive therapy when the nervous system is sort of taught to go off a bit too quick? What do you call that?
To protect, a fight or flight? That's not the fight or flight, no.
Let me see. Well, in cognitive therapy, if someone is afraid of spiders, they go out and they find a little spider, and then they find a bigger spider, and then at the end they can have a spider on the hand. What do you call that? Exposing?
I can't remember.
You know what?
Yeah, everyone knows what you mean anyway. Yeah.
So
exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy. That's what we're doing with the nervous system and emotional circuits. So we are exposing in the here and now, like if it was you, Tova, exposing you to a little bit more of your feelings inside, your motivations, your drives, your, whatever is you. We are exposing you a little bit by bit. And by doing that, the nervous system finds out, okay, so I didn't get scolded. No one left me. So I'm actually sitting here. Tova is still with me. She hasn't rolled her eyes at me. So it's like exposure therapy where the nervous system is using the pathways that it's always using, but it's calming down. And every time it's coming down, it releases tension. So people will say, oh man, I feel there's some relief here. And I didn't even notice, but I didn't know I was stiff from head to toe when I sat down. But now that I'm a bit relieved, I can feel it's like something has lifted off my chest. And that's the evidence we have for, something is working.
Yeah. The body is relaxing that bit. Yeah.
Anxiety is lifting, and emotions are sort of beginning to fire in the limbic area, while the frontal, what do you call this?
Neocortex.
Yeah, it's picking up. So they are beginning to sort of communicate. So it's like I'm firing down here, and I see you firing, and it's not dangerous.
Oh, very well said. I think I'm going to come to you for therapy.
I'll come to you then. No, but it's really exciting. So I think this is very much about maturing the nervous system, maturing the emotional circuits, and help people create secure attachments again, like we are designed to. Yeah.
So in a way, I was just thinking that fear of change, when I was reflecting on all of this, it's not really a fear, is it? It's more like I won't be known if I don't react in a certain way or something. Like we use that word fear quite extensively in our everyday language, but it's
Well, is
not
it like what Mia says? Remember Mia said that pain is the last thing that we have to hold on to?
yeah,
Something like
yeah,
that?
yeah, exactly, yeah,
It's like my pain is the last thing that I can recognize that who I am.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And pain is so many things. So
Or anxiety.
if John Fredrickson was in the room, he would differentiate between, the pain that is inevitable in life, and we don't want to miss that. We can't miss that. But then there's the suffering, which is another kind of pain if we are just, hung over by anxiety and hung over from defenses. Because, like Cassie, was that Cassie who said that? With the
Yeah, stepping off into an abyss sometimes.
Yeah.
Because that internal feeling is like an abyss, isn't it? Like, how am I going to cope with this if I recognize that I've got this empty feeling in me? Sort of that feeling.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about fearing what's inside, I mean, we can talk about it because there's part of our consciousness, we are aware of being afraid of something, but we have to sort of also recognize that subconsciously there is a knowing on a bodily implicit level that is not reaching the brain, that knows about a lot of pain that will come up if we begin to look and allow it. And the resistance is designed to ward off both the anxiety feelings. And I don't know, I'm not aware of it. It's going on inside me.
Well, when your stomach sort of churns a little bit, or your head is a little bit foggy, or the ears are ringing a little bit, the resistance is coming up.
Yeah, normally that's what you feel, right? That's anxiety.
I'd love to talk a little bit about how being in the moment, or because we're heading into the presence process, part of our career. But besides that, being in the moment's not new. I mean, Be Here Now was years ago, Ram Dass, and then there's The Power of Now with Eckhart Tolle, and there's nothing new under the sun. We're all here with repeating intelligence, but why is that such a wonderful tool that we can learn to be in the moment and be in the present?
Well,
what's your experience with that, Rikke?
Well, I think it was Alan Abbas who, in the last podcast he made on a platform that I haven't seen before, he said, like 30 minutes in, that the best anxiety regulating technique or method in the world is when we pay attention.
Wow.
When we pay attention in the moment to the body, because that's all there is.
That's all there is.
There is no past, there is no future. I mean, that's just ruminations or whatever you call it. But in the moment, if we pay attention, that is all there is. And by paying attention, we are obviously designed in a way where that is anxiety regulating.
Yeah.
Unless we get scared of what we feel, and then, we can sort of fuel the anxiety with worries about what we see. But in the moment, has that quality.
Yeah. It reminded me when you were speaking about, did you hear about it in Israel and Europe, about the boys that were in the cave for 10 days or whatever, and then the rescuers came and all the little boys are just sitting on the stone.
That's true.
And they kept calm all that time. And I thought, how amazing that older boy was able to hold them in the present moment, in that space, in darkness, in silence.
Yeah, that's amazing. Really amazing, truly.
Yeah. But that's the reality of human beings, isn't it? Like that Michael Brown thing, that, the only constant thing is silence, darkness, stillness. And then we put our anxiety on top of that, and it's sort of like a blackboard. It's like the blind behind me, you know, you pin stuff on it to color it up.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I think when we talk about this, and also what you asked, Tova, is being in the moment for lots of the people we meet. I mean, they can work with that, and they can get away with some kind of, they can do lots of stuff by themselves. And sometimes if they can't, they can go to see you or Tova, you or Rose, right? But then there are also people who are actually flooded when they try to, be in the moment, especially by themselves, simply because they are fragmented inside in such a way that they need some capacity building before it makes sense to dive too much into stuff, because they don't have the
capacity.
They can't bear it.
Yeah, it's unbearable. Yeah,
Unbearable.
It's true, isn't it? Yeah.
And so I'm not trying to say how other people work, because I wouldn't know, but I meet people sometimes where, you can't just sit with them and be too present in the moment. We have to sort of build some treadstones so that they can.
I like to think that it's, again, I use this, and I'm answering Mia's question. I mean, is it possible to simplify? And I don't want to simplify anything, but we're all, none of us are used to being in the moment. So isn't it something that we can learn? We create the capacity, like you said, and we can learn it. I always like to say, like, we get up and we brush our teeth. I don't forget. It's a habit. Why can't I learn to be in the moment by experiencing this feeling in my body? Oh, this is what it feels like. There's no present, there's no future, there's no past.
It's too frightening.
Okay, but can I learn to realize the fear is something, it's a thought and not real? I can learn that. I want to believe I can learn that. Mia, I want to believe we can all learn that.
Okay, but if your head is all foggy, what are you going to learn?
That my head is all foggy.
What if the teacher up the front has got a big stick and they're wielding a big stick? What are you going to learn? You've got
okay, right, Rose, we're talking about now. Somebody understands logically that I'm frightened. Like, Mia says it's frightening. It's frightening to be in the moment. So Mia, answer me. What is frightening about it? I want to hear. Let's role play. What is frightening about it? Mia?
Okay.
What is frightening about it? I want to understand.
Okay. The understanding is to actually allow the person.
Cassie's right. If you face your anxiety, that's true. You're facing the monster under the bed. And I believe you me, I was scared of the dark my whole life. There was absolutely a monster under the bed and in the closet. So I understand that. You're exactly right. But tell me, can we with the right strategies understand that?
That's what Rikke is talking about. That's what Rikke was saying before. The strategy is to actually spend time with a person and looking externally, and then gradually bringing them back internally so that they can tolerate the anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, you said it very nicely, Rikke.
No, here's Mia's answer. I'm frightened about myself, my life. I'm dealing with, yes. And thank you, Mia. Thank you so much. I love you so much. You're sharing your heart and soul, and you are such a heart and soul. She's been dealing with it. So it's almost like the habit of her dealing with the fear. She's just in a habitual fear. So we can undo that neurologically and emotionally and psychologically.
Yeah. Once the anxiety goes down.
Right.
AC Bilodo has a very good comment to make there. Mm-hmm. Excellent comment.
It's unhealthy to expect to be in the moment all the time. It actually has benefits to not being present in certain circumstances. No? I think that's an interesting question. No, I believe in balance. First of all, AC, I believe in balance. Nothing all the time and none of the time. It's about balance. It's about awareness. Just to be aware. Oh, I'm in the future. Oh, I'm thinking about my past. So it's like an awareness.
Okay, that's when you've got clarity. If you've got clarity, that's good. But if you've got cognitive perceptual disruption, you're not going to be able to do it because your anxiety will be too high.
But you can learn. It is possible. It is possible. When the anxiety goes down, I'm relentless about this.
Sure, but without the support, you can't. It's just not something that. Yeah.
Look, I think Michael Brown's extreme when he says, I'm going to ask him about this when he comes in our Zoom room. He says we should just forget time. Like time has hurt us, and it has, but time is part of our life. We use time as a barometer of what's going on in the moment, in a way. He's saying, forget time, or whatever he's saying. I'm saying, look, time, it has perspective, present, past, but moment. So I don't think anyone can be in the moment all the time except the Dalai Lama. So, Mia, I'm with you. I'm not expecting anyone to be in the moment all the time. I think that it should be a goal, and it should be something, it could be something we have an experience with. Like all of a sudden you realize you're in the moment and and the breath helps. And that's where we're back to the presence process. Are you ladies making faces at me?
Me?
No, I'm listening.
I see your faces. I know your face. I know your face, Rose.
Sure, but if you don't recognize where anxiety plays in the game,
of course I do.
You can't just say. That's why I use the analogy of the teacher with the stick out the front. If the stick is there in front of you all the time as an adult from the past, well, you're not going to be able to be in the present moment. You're not going to be able to, learn the new habit.
Right.
So,
well, it's also, I can be in the moment and then something, you're exactly right. Like all of a sudden I see a stick coming. I feel a stick coming. You're right.
That's right. And the anxiety pops up.
Mm-hmm. So Mia says it's a goal. That's why I'm going to join the process. Ugh. Are you being negative, Mia? Where's that beautiful positive?
Same with all of us.
And I think, again, Michael Brown is a simple guy who had an enormously difficult time with his own human body and nervous system. And when searching, who has 7 years to go searching? We don't even know what he did, but he talks about a process that I think is reasonable and balanced. And that's why I think I'm very happy that we're doing it. It's because it's tools that we can bite into. What do you think about that, Rikke?
I'm really looking forward to the process. And one of the things that he says is that if we can, prior to this process, was it Mia who said, if, addressing her issues, if we can, myself too, if we can let go of any idea of how we're supposed to be when we're present in the moment, because while dissociating, she's present in the moment, but she's dissociated present in the moment. So we are all there, we are all home, but well, there are so many things to say, but I think when we work alone without a therapist, we will have to titrate and dose everything that we ask ourselves to do in this process. I'm not going to be able to do the same as Rose, and Mia is not going to be able to do the same as Tova. And we're going to have individual processes where maybe the first thing that is going to downregulate anxiety is by simply talking about it. So I dissociated. Me, I have to go to the bathroom 3 times if I get really nervous. It's out that end. And some people get nausea, and some people just.
So how about not judging? So you're saying, so we're back to, and not judging yourself, because it is your process. Well, Michael Brown's process is Michael Brown's process. We're all going to have our own process.
I like Patty's comment.
And one of the things when you have high anxiety is, one of the first stepstones is if you get a language for it. So dissociation could be one way of describing when you sort of fragmentate inside, and maybe you could, begin to investigate how is anxiety showing up in me also in different ways, and do I know what it has to do with? What about the present? Sort of have a conversation about what's going on, but not for the purpose of misusing the journey to change us or to become like, I'm going to spend 2 years doing this. I know I'm like a giraffe or a turtle. I move extreme. I move backwards. That's my process. So I know everything is going to take forever, right? And that's fine.
Yeah.
And well, I've said enough.
No. Well,
Can I just talk about the presence process?
You may.
On Sunday, we found out that we are in lockdown. It's sort of like martial law for another 3 weeks. And then yesterday morning, I went for a walk because we're allowed out 2 hours now, not just 1 hour.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do the breathing like Michael Brown says as I'm walking. And, my mind is going, ugh. And what I realized in that moment, in that time when I was trying to do the breathing, was that this is how it is. And it's my desire to change it that's causing me to not be able to do my breathing. I don't want to be locked down. I don't want to not be allowed to go more than 5 kilometers from home. I want to see my grandchildren. So the acceptance that I can't is what I needed to be able to do my breathing. And my breathing brought me back to the fact that I'm resisting.
Excellent.
The situation at the moment. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Excellent. Yeah. It's like when the Buddha says no expectations. It's not about the expectation, it's about our reaction, our response to how we're dealing with the expectation. So it goes back to our control, our choice. And also, if we don't have a choice, it's about judgment. We're back to accepting the situation. So Mia's having when you
I
can
want to be in the lockdown.
When you can be in the present,
I don't think so.
Accept yourself and your moment and your life exactly, and your symptoms exactly, Mia. That's a bold statement. It's really about accepting. I really go back to Byron Katie's work. Do you know about Byron Katie in Denmark? Loving what is.
I think everybody else but me probably knows her.
Anyway, it's like
I don't know her either.
Well, it's like her big thing is loving what is. Like you cannot trust your thoughts, and you have to question your thoughts and realize that they're not true. And it's like whatever your thought is, you got to accept what is. And it's also a profound way to love yourself and accept yourself.
As Rikke was saying a little earlier on, how sometimes in some families, loving experiences are repressed.
You're right.
So when Byron Katie or whoever tells you about loving the present moment, bring her into the therapy room and we'll find out what she's really on about.
No, loving what is.
I don't agree.
It's like, look, it means I agree to the point. Look, and it's good that we're disagreeing. Like we're one of those political shows where thank God we're not talking about politics. But if it is a way to calm your nervous system down.
Loving the present moment. No, it's the opposite.
No. If your car breaks down, you can't control it. I can't control it. My car broke down. Yeah,
so you love the present moment. It's pouring rain and you're underneath the bonnet of the car.
Well, or it's like when I get hives on my leg, I'm just grateful they're not on my face. You know, think about it. I'm being serious, ladies. I'm being serious.
I think it's called pop psychology, but
no, if I can accept what it is, my nervous system isn't going to go into fight or flight.
True.
In some ways, that's
yes,
what I'm talking
you're right.
about.
Yeah, you're right. But what Rikke was talking about was the fact that we've got to titrate the anxiety to get to our goal. Would you agree with me that that's what you were saying, Rikke?
Well,
when we titrate the anxiety, we can get to our goal.
Yeah, I did say that, and I do mean it, but I also agree with Tova. I think if I was to take Tova's point of view into my perspective, the mistake that I make is that I have an expectation when I say I accept the present moment. It's like I have a built-in expectance when I say that I should have joyful feelings about this moment, or I should be like pure in this moment, or I at least should be comfortable. Right. So for me, I think what Tova is saying is, if I accept this moment, which is anyways the only thing I can do, right? Then it is not with the connotation that I should be pure of all shitty feelings. I can be full of, rage and guilt and jealousy and feel stupid, and I can dissociate but I'm just not, I don't have an intention of me being any different in this moment, because this is who I am now.
Yeah.
Right. And what happened, some things are not in our control, but we can always, always, always respond to what happened. That's in our control. And that's what I'm talking about.
I agree with you. So, lots of people can, and some people can't. Because if you
I can't always do it either. It's a goal.
I'm pointing fingers, so I can speak for myself, but with the little bit of fragility that I have inside me, fragility as in I have fragmented parts and some kind of dysfunctional or dysregulated anxiety, some kind of dysregulated emotions. That I have.
They call that human. They call that being human.
Human.
Even in Denmark.
But when I'm in the state of being captured of the lack of my ability to sort of get my head above the water, I'm going to be projecting. I'm going to hear things people don't say to me. I'm going to see other people's eyes staring at me, even though they're loving eyes. And it's not something I can I can't say I'm going to move myself out of this and sort of reality check, because I can't. I don't have the capacity in that moment. And I need someone like you or Rose to sit with me and build that.
Strengthen you.
Because it has a defensive function that has to do with my subconscious and unconscious.
Right.
Like if the only way I can hold myself together in this world is by splitting, by viewing me as all bad and you as all good, if that is the only way I can hold myself together unconsciously to ward off anxiety and ward off a ton of feelings that had to do with my parents and the neglect and abuse and me being hit and brutally everything. Yeah. That's what the psyche can, and we need a bit of work there before we can sort of do what I think you're talking about, Tova.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I didn't want to confuse Gail. How can we love what is if you say not to trust what you think? I'm saying what Byron Katie says is that we have to question our thoughts. We cannot take our thoughts to turn them into beliefs until we really understand who's thinking the thought, which is us, and how that thought can help us or hurt us. That's all. It's understanding your thought process, being aware. And if it's something that you can if you can accept it and move on, then I think accepting it has a place. So we're really talking semantics. So you're right, Gail. It's just really about perspective and putting things into place. No, Patty, Rikke is a therapist. Rikke doesn't have pain or just Rikke. Does Rikke have pain or just anxiety as TMS? Rikke is a therapist from Denmark, and she also was a pilot, which was her way of rebelling against
I haven't had chronic pain or anything that I would go to a doctor with, but
Right.
I sure know the feeling of having, being so tense that my stomach is aching, or I have had nausea, or I have had, trouble with my bowels or something like that. But not in a category where I'm really troubled by it, because I'm working so intensely on, getting to know what's underneath, what's causing it, what's triggering it, right? So I can't say that I have.
Right. And I do want to address Mia's question. Rose, do you want to address Mia's question?
Which question is that?
Does that mean we should be able to first deal with our anxiety before we start the presence process? No,
it's the other way around.
First of all, I think, we all have anxiety. Anxiety is not a bad thing. Like, what did you guys say in the beginning? It alerts us. The anxiety can make us aware. The anxiety can what'd you say, Rose? You said we grow from it. How would you phrase that?
Yeah, if it's repaired, it needs to be repaired. We need anxiety to know whether or not the world is safe. But when the world is unsafe within us, that's when it's dysregulated. But if there's a bear coming to get you, you need to be anxious.
Right.
But if you're looking at somebody and they're reminding you of your mother or something unconsciously, well, that's internal anxiety, because the problem has already gone and we're still living in that anxious state. But there's no bears out there, or what is it, saber-toothed tiger, as Eleanor Bass says.
I'm a saber-toothed tiger. That is me. I'm one of them, and I like it. No, but I think you guys are making so many good points. I wanted to, when we talk about stuff like this, sometimes we talk about it in a way where we simplify it in one way, or we simplify it, but we're just trying to pull out different essences and maybe discuss them a little bit. So as a listener, one could think that, do I need to do this first, or can't I? And everyone is perfect for this task, and it's you can't be.
You can't do it wrong. There's no wrong. You cannot do it wrong.
No.
It's like you just show up and you got it.
And breathe.
So here's Gail's comment, Rakarika. My anxiety is often projecting the worst case scenario in the future, so looking forward to focusing on the present and staying present. This is a great example. This is a great example because, look, if we had to count how many of our anxieties are about the past and the future, we could have a few present anxieties that we could deal with. If we could just say, okay, I'm not going to think about the past or the future, we could be able to maybe deal with the present better. Wouldn't that be a good response? What do you think, Rose?
Well, I just thought my example was very current for me, and how my breathing didn't work when I was anxious about the fact that I'm restricted and I'm under martial law, whatever you want to call it.
Right, right.
So the present moment of, breathing continuously like that is great, but it only lasted about a minute, and then I went back to rumination, and then I went back to breathing, I went back to rumination.
Wouldn't you say, this is the country, I'm on lockdown, I can't control it, but I can control how I react? Wouldn't you approach it that way, about being in lockdown in Australia?
For sure, but I'm not perfect. I'm human, as you keep reminding us all. Right. So therefore, I don't. I'm angry. I'm furious.
And it's great that you express that, like it's as opposed to, oh, you're right, good point. So Patty says, my anxiety is about pain that keeps me in the freeze. Well, my response is, Patty, is, the pain, it's like a cycle. My anxiety is about the pain and my pain's about the anxiety. So of course you're in freeze. wouldn't Rose, you suggest that somehow we break that cycle by talking about the feelings behind it?
Well, we probably wouldn't, because we'd spend more time working out what's going on behind the scenes and about relationship issues and stuff like that, where we could look outside. And then as we'd look outside, we could bring it closer to what's happening within Patty so that she could actually defrost. How's that?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good word.
Good point.
Yeah. So we can't just walk away and defrost. Oh, well, I'll just do this breathing and I'll be able to defrost. It's not quite like that. And that's why I use that example, because it's quite a strong example and of our lives being turned around completely out of our control, but we resist it. And the resistance is normal.
That is true.
Okay.
That is true. So Patty admitted that she has fear. So we have to look at that and accept that and recognize it. That's pretty much ISDTP, what they teach us, what they teach you. Okay, so Patty has fear. Rikke, how would you respond to Patty?
Well, there are so many ways of trying to explore this, because out of respect for like Patty and all other people and me and you, we would actually have to have a little bit of a conversation about what do you mean when you say fear? Is it like a bodily state, or is it like more worries where you ruminate and sort of, like Brené Brown would say, are you dress rehearsing tragedy all the time? And what is, how long has that been going on for? And, what does that have to do with? We could sort of investigate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then
inquire
a bit. And then, we could just to begin with, to get a sense of what's going on, we could say, so all the time you spend in your head is time that you can't really be present in the moment, in the body. So would there be reasons, like emotionally, for you not to be present in the moment, in the body? I mean, are there relational problems? I mean, what's going on besides you worrying or being afraid of what's going to happen in the future? So we need a bit of more data, because we don't want to make stuff up.
Right.
We don't want to just have a hypothesis and then sort of treat you like an object. We need to speak a little about what's going on.
No, but it's a cycle that we like the fear, the anxiety, the pain, and on a biomechanical level, like there's ways to break the cycle, because the body's the brain is in this system. The brain is in this, and I go back to the phantom leg, like he thinks he has a leg and it's gone, but the pain is still there. So they help his brain create a new pathway.
Yeah.
That they don't take away the pathway that believes he has a leg. They work on a new pathway that overrides the pathway that the pain is here, not in the leg.
Sure.
And I really love that example. It's not easy, but it's possible.
No.
It is possible.
Yeah. I don't have very much experience with that exactly. I have more experience with, maybe more traditional emotional stuff.
Right.
I love the comment that was there earlier when talking about pain, where I think it was Mia or Cassie said that pain is oftentimes the bridge to, some past experience that you want to hold on to. And I think with both anxiety and pain, I mean, oftentimes it's just different ways the body can best point to something that needs, like frustrated dreams, lost someone you loved, you lost them, or
never had them, and you're looking for them.
Absolutely. And in your mind, you sort of have an image of who was supposed to be there, but they never were. Like
that's right.
A fantasy of a kind.
Yeah.
And that really makes sense to me.
Amazing. Any other questions out there? We've had a lot of listeners tonight. I'm thrilled. Rose, did you want to say something about what happened earlier in the night because of...
Yes. I want to apologize to Dr. Steve Arthey, and I want to thank Rikke for coming on, because I was in European and American time, being Monday the 7th, but in Australia it's Tuesday the 8th. So Steve, of course, has patients this morning, so he can't come on, but I misinformed him, so my sincere apologies, Steve, and to all of you that were hoping to hear from Steve. But thank you, Rikke. It's just been really fantastic that you've come on. And I think we've explored, and we've actually, you used the terminology that we've separated out different areas of distress and stress and anxiety and pain, and we've actually teased them across so that we can actually sort of look down on them and see that these are the patterns that I've held on to, and they were good for me, but they're not working anymore, and I've got pain. So thank you for that.
No, you're welcome. I had a blast.
Yeah, delighted. Just delighted. Just another wonderful show. And to our listeners, Rose will be available a little bit more. It's her morning. If you have any other questions, you can put it on the feed.
And or any concerns, just email me.
Yeah, if I've offended anybody, it's going to be the Jewish New Year in a few weeks, and so we say if I've offended anybody, I apologize. But it's a beautiful. I'm just thrilled to be with such people and to have people. I'm really just Rose and I feel very blessed, and to meet you, Rikke, and it's just very exciting. And as I say, the best is yet to come. For all of you out there, the best is yet to come. And so have a wonderful night. Sleep well. Rikke, thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Rose, I love you like a sister. And I'll have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you like in 7 or 8 hours. So good night, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and all the best. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.